Hello, Andy and Brent. Welcome back to World Building Secrets. It's so great to have you both.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Nice to be asked back.
Always. Today we're here to talk about a really new, exciting concept that's coming to the Unioverse that's going to allow our creator community, anybody in the community that's any kind of creative, to be a part of it. But we're going to begin with, could each of you define what world building is to you?
Well, there's the very general concept of world building, and then there's the very specific building of a world. And I'll start with the building of a world. As people who have read Malcolm Orion Backstory, part number 7, we go to a world and you start thinking about, okay, he's going someplace. What does it look like when you start walking around it? What's there? What would be interesting? How does it get to be that way? What's the story of this place? And that just captures the spirit of general world building. To me, it's a massive exercise in empathy. You're not just walking in one person's shoes, you're walking in the shoes of a world and all the people who are on it. Different people, continents, histories. There are phases of existence, civilizations which rise and fall. And so you're just creating this big story around how did this place come to be? Where in its existence is it? Where is it headed? What is it? What has it left behind? And what's the hope for the future? And so world building in general, it's all the lore, everything we kind of take for granted as being the foundation of our existence now. You have to come up with all of that and have it feel believable and substantive. And it's about the most exciting creative endeavor one can do, personally.
Well, very hard to top that explanation. I will just say that just from a more practical standpoint, an analogy I would use is, building your first home, right? Mm-hmm. You find a piece of property that you like and you look at it and there could be trees there could be a bluff, there could be just absolutely nothing except weeds. And you have to imagine what world do I want to inhabit? Where do I want to live? And then you go through a very practical process of, either doing it yourself or probably hiring someone to kind of bring it to life in 3 dimensions. And then you have to build a foundation, which has all of these rules and regulations around how it's set and this and that. And it has to be structurally sound. And then you go through the process of putting up the structure. And then eventually you get to the fun part, which is, okay, are we putting carpet or wood floors? Are we painting this green or blue? And what kind of trim? And then you start to decorate it with furniture, right? And then once that's all in place, you can live in it, right? And then the whole saying goes, the house becomes a home. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the world building process in the microcosm, and that you have to start with imagination, and then you have to go through a fairly rigorous structural process to make sure that it all works and that it supports kind of the life that you envision for this house. And then once you live in it, you start to realize, ooh, we should have put the stairs someplace different, or I think we need to add a bedroom, right? Or life evolves and it's like, we need to cover that garage because it's a lot colder here in the winters than we thought. Whatever it is, you kind of add and change and expand on what the original vision was. And I feel like that's more or less what we've done for the Unioverse. Absolutely.
And one of the things while the Unioverse is already very much existent, it's very much as well in development. And one of the key things that I think both of you have mentioned in your podcast before is having some sort of boundaries and some sort of guidelines and rules and things that cannot be crossed and things that need to be considered. What do you think what is that thing within the Unioverse that allows for that kind of harmony and control of what exists and what doesn't?
Thankfully, when you start constructing the Unioverse and you put these rules into place, yes, there are rules, but you often have to tweak them. Like, we don't have to tear down a section of the house because we didn't go by the code, but we have to tweak things because someone asks a really good question. Just yesterday, Josh, who's in charge of the anthology, was just asking a question about one of the stories and just said, okay, assemblers, they're in the Discovery landers. Can you move one? Like, that's a really interesting question. Like, you were to like pick it up. Can you pick it up out of a lander and put it outside and use it out there? And it's like, I don't think you can, but we have to think about that and talk about that, because there are rules around how this kind of stuff works. But, we hadn't thought of like a creator extension cord.
The world was designed to be incomplete. And part of the incompleteness is around the rules, right? Certain rules are going to be developed on the worlds that we're creating, right? And the rules of those worlds may be very different. For instance, just something as simple as the difference between Earth and Mars and the Moon. Those are all different planets. They all look and feel to some degree like our planet, but, less inhabitable and enticing. But just something as simple as the gravity is different on each one of those planets. That's one of the key foundational rules of what can you do on this planet. And the gravity is different, right? And so you have to adjust and accommodate for something as simple as that. So we can set all sorts of rules in place about the creator tech and how it works. But when we go from planet to planet, each planet is going to have its own unique set of rules. And, I think we barely even scratched the surface of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So our community is finally going to be able to have a say on planet creations and world building within the Unioverse. So I think let's introduce the New World Genesis program to our community. And I think let's begin by I'm going to ask you guys, what is the merge and what is its purpose? Well,
in the story world, the merge, it evolved over time, and I don't want to give too much away because you've been reading, I'm assuming people have been reading the Malcolm Orion backstory where he's on the hub and he is now there with Rayu, that you would imagine that more people are going to show up at the hub because 500 years later, there's a teeming intergalactic community with this structure, the merge, the emergence that is the sort of bureaucratic heart of the intergalactic community. And while they're not exactly sort of a rigid government, it is, they oversee all things creator tech. And when a planet wishes to become a part of the merge, there are benefits to it, and not to go too far down the rabbit hole of like being the equivalent of NATO, but it's like an agreement and a pact between these planets to help and support one another. And there are benefits to joining, and the hope and expectation is that the merge will benefit from your being a part of their community. And so there's a process by which one becomes a member of the merge. You can be connected to the hub and the intergalactic community without being a member of the merge. It's not a requirement. It's something that you need to earn your way into. And then, taking a step back, there's also, when it comes to, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when we start talking about this, what we're doing with this planet and the New World Genesis program, that the group that is instrumental within the merge is the Security Council. They make the ultimate decision on who becomes a member of the merge. And we have our own Unioverse Merge Council, and we can get into who are the members of that council who will be looking at the entries that people create. But in the end, it is a position of honor and privilege to become a member of the merge, and so that's what we're hoping people are striving for when they jump into this program.
Absolutely. Brent, how can people become part of this program? How is this New World Genesis program work?
Well, it starts with, I think that, well, here's the thing. The barriers to entry are imagination and initiative, right? So there's not a big cost to do this. You have to want to participate. And I'm hoping that people have been inspired by what we've been creating so far and the stories that are being told and what they've seen, Stuart's amazing artwork. And that now that we're opening the doors for community collaboration, they will have an opportunity to go online and basically fill out forms over a period of weeks that start to allow them to take what they see in their imagination, either as individuals or as groups, and start to build out the planet that we have introduced in the latest Malcolm Orion story. Taking kind of the pillars that we've put in place and some of the clues as to what the world might look and feel like, and creating their own narrative. And if they want, creating their own visuals, their own audio, whatever they want to build out that world and present their vision to not just the Security Council, right, of the merge, but also the community, because the community is going to play a big part in this in terms of helping vote along what they think is most important. Because at the end of the day, as we keep saying, this is a community-owned franchise. So if we're going to open up a planet and allow people to jump there, and when I say jump there, I mean literally and figuratively, like we may have a game that goes to this planet, right, and is set on this planet. We may run new stories through there, right? Short stories, comics, whatever you want. And we may do it, or fans may do it, right? Part of the community may do it. This is now going to become part of canon, right? And so that is, to me, what's the inducement, what's the excitement about this is very few franchises allow the community to create something that becomes canon. And that's what the opportunity is here.
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity. I think the way we've also structured it to initially introduce this program to our communities, really open-ended and almost, as easy as possible so people can feel comfortable doing it. And there's a lot more that we hope to achieve after this first 4-week program. But where do you see the New World Genesis program going in the future, and what kind of opportunities can people look forward to?
Well, I think, we've talked internally that this is kind of the toe in the water, right? This is the first kind of experiment to see, how the community rallies around an initiative like this, and to work out the kinks, like see how it works, and there may be some things that we have to course correct along the way, but I think this is really just the first step in a much larger world building experience that we want to have, and so I was telling Andy that there's a bit of Mad Libs to this, right? It's like we're saying, here's a planet. We're not telling you what the name is, but we're telling you a little bit about it. We're showing you some art. We've got some things there, but then there's a lot of blanks that you're being asked to fill in. I think that in the future, I foresee, once we've shown people how this works and they're comfortable with the process, I think the Merge Security Council will be open for business, periodically throughout the year. And maybe I can imagine in the future, 4 times a year, we are accepting new applications, and we are not creating a Mad Lib process. We're saying, you know what kind of worlds we're creating. We've done this kind of project a couple of times. You understand the world. You understand the characters. You've read the stories. You create something. You tell us from, scratch, what is a world that you believe belongs in this canon? And I think that to the extent that we raise the bar too and say, start creating a multimedia, presentation, and start, flexing some of those muscles that people have out there. Because I think at the end of the day, what we really want to do is not just create canon, but, enrich the community and enrich the community and inspire them to become creators. And I think we're seeing the first kind of bubblings of that on Discord, where people are saying, hey, I've got these skills and I've got these skills. And I think that what we may find is in the years to come, we create all sorts of, I'll call them little production companies that are constantly creating content and helping us expand the world in really interesting places. And frankly, going back to one of the first things we said, which is, as talented as we may be internally, there is an infinite wealth of talent out there in the world, and they're going to think of things and create things that we never could have imagined. And so we need them as much as they need us.
Absolutely. How can people, for anybody that's new to the community or just joined or maybe hasn't been on top of everything we've been releasing, how can they prepare for the New World Genesis program?
I would get fully up to speed on the Malcolm Orion backstory to get a sense for, his viewpoint, why he's jumping, what he's looking for, what he experiences once he goes to this other planet, what other planets might be possible out there, given his experience on the hub and some of the civilizations, the remains of civilizations he's seen. All of that is potential inspiration for what exactly is going on this planet. Study the art. Stuart Janet is amazing and inspires with every piece he has. And then think through whenever you see what's there, you start to see what's missing. Like there are just some details there about a fallen civilization and these cats like creatures and it's jungle. And it's like, okay, so are there other biospheres on the planet? Are there other continents on the planet? Just start thinking through what our world is like, what other worlds that we know of in our own solar system, what's possible, what's plausible, offers interesting conflict or interesting stories. Because in the end, that narrative that they are going to weave to try to convince the community that their world is the one that should be triumphant and be accepted into the merge. It's always the story at the heart of it. You can describe the flora and fauna down to the very microscopic scientific detail, but if we don't have a story around it, it's going to feel clinical, and we want to get caught up in the drama of this world, the story of this world.
Two things to add. One is we also have the wiki. So there's, and that's one of Andy's main projects has been to build out this wiki that is kind of a compendium of everything that exists in the Unioverse. Now, it's been built out a lot more than has been shared, but we are in various stages opening up access to that. So as this project is unfolding and future world building projects unfolds, you're going to see and have access to more and more information, more facts about the Unioverse. And there's more content in terms of artwork and short videos and all sorts of other stuff. So stay up to date on that, as well as all of the fictional writing. And secondarily, just one analogy to make, like wind back to human history and the first time that somebody stumbled upon, the ancient, pyramids in Mexico, right? And they had to go in with machetes and carve them and pull them down and start to imagine who lived here. What was this? What was going on? And the first signs that they got were some of the hieroglyphs and, the symbology and whatnot. And from that, they had to keep excavating further and reveal kind of the cities. And from all of that, they had to start making kind of projections about what must have this civilization been like? What did they do? When did they live? Why did they die? Right? Why did they do? So I think it's a mental or imaginary excavation project. We've given you, like Andy said, a couple kind of interesting clues about the world. And most importantly, what we want to stress is there is no right answer. We have not actually, and by design, figured out, okay, here's what happened. Let's see if anyone can guess this.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Completely open.
We've put some things in place based on asking some interesting questions. that were meant to be provocations, right? And they can be taken anywhere. And the community and the Security Council will decide what is the most compelling world that benefits the merge and also will be a benefit to this planet to be part of the merge.
So the New World program begins on Monday, February the 20th. The way it's going to go is it's going to be a 4-week installment, 2 prompts each week. Every Thursday, both the Security Council, which we can get into in a second of who that is exactly so people can know. There's going to be top finalists. We don't even have a set number right now because I think we want to keep the floor open to make sure that as many gray ones as that, like you just said, are worthy of becoming part of the merge, that respect the merge, that have the qualities that that planet needs to survive and thrive within the merge and within the Unioverse, will be then shared to the community, and the community are going to vote on the winners. What can the winners look forward to in terms of their work being featured within the Unioverse or any other incentives that the Security Council has in plan for them?
The wiki is going to, as it expands, immediately after, winners are decided each week, that information is going to be instantly canonized within the merge archives and build out over the 4 weeks. With credit given to the people who contributed those pieces to the overall picture of this planet. And then at the end of all of this, and it makes me want to actually submit something for this contest because I have my own ideas as to what's going on this planet. Because at the end, when all of the pieces are in place, Stuart is going to create some art around the planet that you guys created, and that's going to be yours. They're going to get it to you, and you're going to have an original piece of Stuart Jennett artwork based on the planet that you helped dream up. And I'm sure you've seen the art. If zoom in on it and just bask in the details, Stuart's amazing. And
it's incredible.
Yeah. And it's an amazing reward. But then, ongoing, as Brent was touching on, this is a part of the canon now. And it's like you're an early adopter because we don't have tons of sort of set in stone planets yet. And so yours is like, one of, from the original trilogy, like one of the original, planets that, and given its sort of fabled history as being the place that Malcolm Orion jumped to first, like we're going to go back there. And you're going to be able to point to that planet over and over again and saying like, yeah, I helped create that. And what a great calling card if you're somebody who wants to be a creator and do this sort of thing. Like what a great way to, show what you're made of. Like I know that back when I was in my early 20s, I would have been all over this thing. Like I want to get in there. I want to mix it up and create a world that is going to live on. It's your little piece of forever. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So do I.
In game parlance, this is narrative modding, right? You're going to go out and create something that, like Andy said, you can then showcase as a project that you put together, right? To build your kind of narrative resume, as it were. Yeah,
absolutely. So to close off, who is on the Security Council and what are you going to be looking for the most?
Well, I'll start with the pragmatics and I'll let Brent jump in on the abstract there. But the members of the, to talk about opportunity as a creator, as a young creator in particular, but any age. The people who are going to be looking at this material and making some, sort of finalist decisions, you're going to have Tony Harmon. You're going to have Wyeth Ridgway. You're going to have Brent. The architects and creators of this entire Unioverse are going to be looking at your material and deciding, okay, wow, this is amazing. And the community has to vote on this. And then, also along for the ride, I'll be part of the Security Council, as will Josh Viola. And sort of looking at it through the eyes of, not only people who spend a lot of time thinking about story, but also how does it fit in with, the universe as it exists now, and, is suggestive of where it might be headed.
When you're thinking of this world and how to build it out, I think one of the key things to remember is that at the end of the day, this isn't just a narrative environment, it's an interactive environment. And so building out a world that we can tell some great stories in, that's job one. Job two is build me a world in your imagination that I want to go play in, that I want to go explore, that that would induce a game developer to want to set an entire game or at least a level there. I know when Andy and I were kicking around the world, we started talking about some game ideas and whatnot. And so I think I firmly believe we put a couple little kernels of story in place that should promote some great interactive ideas. So you don't have to, those don't have to be part of your presentation. They could be if you want to, but I think in those terms, think three-dimensionally. Think this is a world that we want to go to, right? And so I'm going to skip ahead, and I know you're going to ask me a world building secret question. One of the things in particular for this exercise is, there's that saying of write what you know. And in this case, I would say, write what you aspire to. Write about a world that you would love to visit and explore.
And play in.
And play in.
Yeah. And when you say play in, it's not just that you would like to vacation there, although that could be part of it, but it could also be a very dangerous place to go on vacation to. Like planets that could have some good conflict to it, some potential danger there.
Absolutely. Even thinking about imagining what Ryu could encounter there, how he could behave there, how Malcolm Orion could behave there, how Krisha, our upcoming hero, any of our other heroes that are going to be featured in our comics and the Unioverse story could potentially encounter there. Absolutely.
That's a really, really great point in that it's our heroes are going to go to these places, and our heroes are very capable. And what are they going to encounter there that's going to challenge them? Not just physically, but emotionally and politically, whatever, that, they need to be tested. To me, one of the big things, when you're doing it right, when you're doing world building right, the world persists and lives on even when you're not there. And so this idea that you put these pieces in place and you have these different sentient beings or whatever, different parts of the civilization, you leave it for 100 years, you come back, it's a changed place because people have lived out their lives and had their conflicts and whatnot. I mean, just think about this world. If you were to leave this world for 500 years and come back, well, what was it like in 1500 or 1600? That's what we're talking about. Things go through change. And if you've designed a really cool world, the picture you give us of that world in this moment, 500 years from now, will be in a totally different place.
Yep. You can find all of the resources that you need to participate in the program, including our wiki, links to story pages, everything below in the description. And the New World Genesis program is launching on Monday, February 20th. We really look forward to seeing all of your applications, and remember to have fun and be creative, and definitely ask for help. If you don't know, you're confused, hop into our Discord. I know for a fact that Andy, Brent as well, myself and other team members will be in there. And, if you have questions or you need somebody to bounce ideas off of, we're here and we're going to help you. Thank you both so much, and good luck to everyone, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Can't wait
to see what you can do.